Hello, friends. We're carrying on with our Samhain series. Tonight we're going to talk about rituals. What are rituals? Like, are we sacrificing something? Are there goats coming? What's going on? What's all this stuff about rituals? Listen, if you're in any religious tradition, grew up in any religious tradition, you're already familiar with rituals because that's what religions do. Now, I can't speak to Judaism or to Muslim traditions, but I'll speak about Anglican traditions, right? So, and a little bit about Lutheran traditions, Missouri Synod Lutheran, which was very similar to the Anglican Church, conservative Anglican Church I was raised in, and the Roman Catholic Church. My husband's Roman Catholic. So those, and I went to a Catholic university. So those are the ones I'm familiar with. So, first of all, in the Anglican Church, which when I talk about the Anglican Church, I am talking about what they call the continuing church, which was in the 70s when I was a wee little tot. The Episcopal Church made some changes that made a whole lot of people upset, and so those upset people, of which my mother was included, left the Episcopal Church. So when I'm speaking about the Anglican Church, I'm not talking about the modern Episcopal Church. I'm talking about the continuing Anglican Church. So, they have rituals, right? They light candles, they say prayers in a certain order, they say certain prayers for certain things, there are certain prayers for certain events, right? It's a ritual. Prayer book, the 1903 Book of Common Prayer, which is what, or 1943, did I say that? Book of Common Prayer, which is what our church used, had certain prayers for certain things in a certain kind of language. And when they tried to change that, people like my mother were unhappy. We were so strict that when they tried to let girls light candles on the altar, they weren't happy. So every religion has rituals. Roman Catholic Church has rituals. They don't necessarily have a prayer book because they teach the prayers and you memorize the prayers when you go through catechism. So, but still, there's a book somewhere that has them all in it. It's the same thing every week. You go to any Catholic church, it's going to be, with the exception of tiny little things that are different, it's mostly going to be the same. You go to any continuing Anglican church, it's mostly going to be the same. You go to any Missouri Synod Lutheran church, it's mostly going to be the same. The rituals are the same for the people who believe in that tradition. Same is true with witches, with Wiccans, with Druids, right? That belong to groups. In the Druid tradition, those are called groves. So, and I believe in witchcraft, they're called covens, right? So you find one that is attuned, and I learned through my study of sitting here for 12 weeks, learning about all kinds of things I didn't know about. There are a million different kinds of witches, and there are a lot of kinds of Druids, and I didn't know that. I've always been independent. I do look at the materials of Obod, which, I will link below so that you can look at them too. I just never felt called to become part of Obod, or really to become part of any group. And part of that, in reflection tonight, I was praying and thinking about it and talking to Spirit, and I'm like, why? Like, why am I so against organized things? And part of that is probably because I came from such a conservative tradition, and I really sort of my spidey sense jumps out of my skin when anybody wants to tell me what to do, right? Because I was very involved in the church, and if you've been following the channel, you know that I was going to be a nun, an Anglican nun. So to do what I do now, the belief system that I have now is so, to me, it's not fundamentally different. To them, whoever they are, it's fundamentally different. But to me, the spiritual side is exactly the same. My belief in Jesus Christ hasn't changed. My belief in the power of Jesus Christ has not changed. So to me, it's the same, but in their terms and the rules that they have within that tradition, I have moved on. But I still love them very much, and I love the time that I spent with them in the many, many years that I was involved in the church. I've grown past it. I've evolved. So I'm hesitant when it comes to organized religion. I've seen so many abuses, and I'm not talking about the absolute heinous abuse that we've seen in the Roman Catholic Church. Those kind of abuses really happen in all the churches. We hear about more with the Roman Catholic Church, and of course they're the oldest church, so they have a longer history of it. But those kind of abuses happen in hospitals with doctors. They happen in police departments with with shady cops. So I don't want to single out a denomination because some of its members are awful, disgusting human beings. The religion is not the people practicing the religion. So that isn't why I don't belong to organized religion. I like doing my own thing, right? I like doing my own thing. I like thinking about what I want to think about. I like saying the prayers I like to say. I like to think what I want about the Bible. And that can be very lonely, right? That can be very isolated. Because you really are relying entirely on your own truth, right? And how you see Spirit talking to you. I was asked to volunteer at a place that's near here. Everybody was asked to volunteer. I wasn't specifically pointed out to volunteer. And it's this amazing, amazing place that's near me, where a former, I can't remember if he was Presbyterian or I don't know what kind of pastor he was, but he went over to the Isle of Iona to where the standing stones are, and he was so transformed by it that he came back, and he was from the Midwest, but he found land in Pennsylvania by where I live, and recreated these standing stones. And it's amazing. There are two chapels, but the one I like has a cover on it. The other one's like an open chapel, and there are Celtic crosses there. And I think like this man passed away before I ever got to meet him, but I totally think that had I got to meet him, like he and I mean, he's obviously much older than I am. I've never met him, but just based on how he built Columkill and the structure of this church, which was the first thing that was built. I really feel like he and I would have really understood one another, because I think we're at the same place. I feel like we come to this the same way, with this combination of Christianity and this understanding of the Druidic philosophy. I really feel like he and I really would have connected. We might not have agreed on everything, but that is the beauty of Druidry, is that you can disagree without taking your prayer books and running off. So anyway, they were asking for volunteers for their Samhain celebration, which will be on the 29th. And normally I'm in a parade on the 29th of every year with my pipe band. So, and it's a local one, and I love that parade. It's a lot of fun, and I love that band, so that's a lot of fun. But this year I can't march because of my foot, even though I'm learning to walk again, and but I don't want to push it because I want to be able to keep walking in March when we get to St. Patrick's season. So I can't be in the parade. It's also trick-or-treat night here in my hometown. My son loves to give out candy, and I buy little bottles of whiskey to give to the parents. But I'm never here for that, so usually my husband hands out the whiskey, and we have this giant chute on our porch from COVID times, and thank you to my friend who donated it. That I think he borrowed it from a friend of his, so at some point he might actually come back and get it. But we love it. There's lights on it, and people love this thing. So the kids love it because we shoot the candy down it. So that's a lot of fun, and I miss it because I'm usually in this parade. And then this year, if I'm going to ever volunteer for this thing, I'd have to do it this year and attend it. I would have to do it this year because next year I'll be in the parade again, Lord willing. So then I got this feeling, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. Do I want to go to this thing? Because I went to another thing there, which was very pagan-like to me. And I just thought to myself, I don't know if the guy who created this thing would agree with how this is going. Like, they're totally avoiding the Christianity part, which was so important to him, that they're over where he's buried in this chapel, there are Celtic crosses. I mean, this guy was Christian, Celtic Christian. So, I don't know. I started to get a feeling, and I'm like, okay, Spirit, let's walk through this. Let's do this shadow work. Let's walk through this. What is going on? Why do I feel this way? And I realize that I feel this way partly because of my background, right? Partly because I come from such a strict tradition, and I'm always very, I always feel a certain way about things that are so like woo-woo and out there because as a child, like I couldn't go to stuff. I couldn't even go to the UCC youth group. My mother was so strict that I had to, other kids were sneaking out to go to bars. I was sneaking out to go to the UCC youth group to be in this dance group called animation. And I had to hide from my parents, and I had to forge my permission slip. And then my father, God rest his soul, actually came to see the performance of our dance troupe, holding his little lunchbox for the steel in the back corner, watched me and left. God rest his soul. I wasn't allowed to be in that kind of stuff. So imagine what my family's thinking about me going to something so woo-woo as like people around a big giant fire pit, holding torches and chanting. Like, I mean, just imagine what that would have done to me as a child. I would have been in so much trouble. But I've evolved beyond that. So like that can't be the only thing. And then I thought, like, I always fear that people are going to think I'm fraudulent and that I'm full of shit, right? Like that this is all like some sort of ploy to be weird or different, some people try really hard to have all the things that say me, and look how different I am, and look how I'm not like, and that's not me. Like, I mean, look at me. If I'm not trying to be all out there, right? So I need to get over it. I need to stop being arrogant, and I need to stop being a hypocrite, right? I talk all the time about how rituals and how the things that we do bring value to us. Who am I to judge other people and the rituals they do? I can watch a ritual and not derive spiritual meaning from it, but I can derive meaning from watching others embrace a tradition that I'm not familiar with. I loved learning about different cultures. I go to different cultures all the time. Why am I so offended? Why am I so up in a tizzy about seeing a tradition within my tradition that's not my tradition? That's called hypocrisy. That's called being an arrogant twit. And I'm not going to be an arrogant twit this year. So I'm going to go. I'm going to go, and I am going to honor the experience that the people there have. I am going to be joyful. I'm going to be grateful for the opportunity this year to see this festival and to be part of it and to light the luminaries. And that is a job you can do sitting down. I'm gonna embrace the opportunity. I don't have to agree with everything they do. I'm not a shaman. I'm not animistic, or anything like that. But that doesn't mean that I can't watch others do it and be respectful of them embracing the experience that they want to have and derive meaning from it. Samhain is until the 31st. I'm going to do my own stuff at my house my traditions, my rituals, the things that I like to do. I can participate and be open-minded. I talk about being open-minded and joyful. How about I just do that? So, wishing you all the best of light and love, and hoping that you'll find something in your life where you're like, you know what? You're being the jerk. I was being the jerk. I was being the judgy, jerky person. And I'm not going to do that this year. This year I'm going to open my mind, and I'm going to bear witness to kindness, bear witness to justice and truth and wisdom. And I am just going to watch and appreciate and value the opportunity to see something different within my own tradition. Wishing you all the very best of light and love. And that's tonight's Samhain series on rituals. Be well. Bye-bye.